Welcome back to Bay Area Focus. Please welcome a consultant for Time Stands Still. It's a play about PTSD at Cinnabar Theater, psychotherapist Peter Bernstein. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
First, let's talk about this play. It's running now through April 17th.
Yeah.
And it talks about PTSD.
It's a good play.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of substance to it, and it's the world that we work with a lot, and we see it every day. And we know, when I saw it, how close to real life this play really is, about the struggles and difficulties that people who have PTSD go through and how damaging it can be. Mm-hmm. It was pretty close to home. I was taken by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed.
So define PTSD for us.
Well, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll tell you about trauma, first of all. Those are the kind of experiences that people run into that are far beyond what our normal fear abilities are to deal with it. Mm-hmm. It's an overwhelming experience. Most people associate it with near-death kind of experiences. There's a lot more to it than that, and there's a lot of different types of PTSD. It's overwhelming. Things are out of control. That if we can survive it, that's all we can hope for. Lots of changes happen within the time that you're going through the more shocking types of PTSD, which is what people think about. There's actually other forms, though, to be honest with you. There's what we call a complex developmental type that has to do with, goes on for a longer time. You can think of families, children that have gone through abuse, neglect.
You know, when we've talked about PTSD, a lot of the times we talk about the military experience,
right.
But it's not just military.
No, it's not. Interesting, because the military would rather have us talk about other forms of it. They have a problem called stigma, because they don't want to admit to the difficulties that it causes them. But no, anyone that's been through difficulties in their life and has lasting repercussions from it, mm-hmm. that come through and distort their lives in the present, are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Lots of things. It could be losing a loved one. It could be taking care of someone who's sick and dying and over a long period of time. It could be folks that have gone through some kind of long-term abuse. Incest is a big one, and sexual abuse is something that we've been treating for years. So the civilian world suffers from PTSD plenty. What are flashbacks? Flashbacks, I was told not to get too technical with you, so I won't. Okay. A flashback really is it's a triggering. A triggering is something that occurs in our present that reminds us, and it may not be conscious, but we have a very visceral reaction to it. It's more than just in your head. It's your body and your physiological reactions. What happens is the content of the memory, emotionally and every other way, comes back and floods into the present. It doesn't mean the situation in the present is the exact same one. It could be similar. It could be an odor. It can be a sight. It can be so many different things. But once it triggers, the nervous system goes into what they call a hyper-alert state, like it was with the original trauma. And it takes the individual over. Over a long period of time, it can be very, very damaging and destructive. You mentioned your book you wrote, Trauma. Yeah. Yeah, tell me Trauma, about Healing the Hidden Epidemic. We wrote it in a way, we wanted to reach as many people as we could and talk to the heart of where suffering and pain are, instead of just the head. It wasn't just for academics. I wrote it in the height of the recession, and there was plenty of PTSD going on then, with people losing their homes, their security, their jobs. Many things were happening at that time, and people were traumatized. Mm-hmm. The recession was a very traumatizing time. We felt our community was suffering in Petaluma, and we wrote that book to reach the public and to give them reassurance that there's hope, that they're going to get through it, but they're going to have to begin to relate to the challenges in new ways, not the old ways anymore. Times are changing. But their life wasn't over just because their life savings went away or their home was foreclosed, sure, or they lost their job. There was going to be hope again for them. And quickly, if somebody is experiencing some of these symptoms, I'm sure it's hard for them to figure out really that it's PTSD. Yes, it is. There's a lot of... What should they do? Well, there's a lot of different reasons for that, but not everybody even remembers what happened that's causing these problems they're having in their life today, or the pain they're in, or the lack of any feeling at all. It sometimes takes crises in their life to wake them up. Broken marriage, drinking too much and doing drugs, and I mean pharmaceuticals is a big one today. It's an epidemic.
So really, people who are experiencing this, they really need to get help.
They do.
When they know something's wrong, reach out.
I highly recommend it.
Well, Peter, thank you so much. And again, you do a lot of work with people with PTSD. You're an author of a book. You're also the consultant for this play, Time Stands Still, which runs through April 17th. For more information about the play and PTSD, you can log on to cinnabartheater.org. Again, that's cinnabartheater.org. Coming up, more information about Cuba Caribe. We'll be right back.